I never thought the end of my marriage would start with a punchline. Not a fight, not a scandal, just one perfectly timed line in a crowded restaurant, followed by 30 people laughing at the price tag my wife had just stapled to me. And the best part? She thought it was clever. 2 months earlier, we were sitting at the long, polished table of an overpriced downtown restaurant. Clara's company had rented the place for their quarterly team celebration, which in practice meant 3 hours of small talk and pretending to care about marketing campaigns I couldn't explain to a hostage. The lighting was dim enough to hide the portions, the wine flowed like management was paying for absolution, and everyone was already 3 drinks into their funny work stories routine. Then one of her colleagues, a senior manager with an expensive haircut and the kind of smirk you only get from quarterly bonuses, leaned across the table toward her. "Come on, Clara," he said, swirling his wine like it was about to spill a secret. "You run the show at home too, right?" Clara didn't even blink. She leaned back in her chair, tipped her chin just enough to make it theatrical, and said, loud enough for the entire table to catch, "Oh, absolutely. I control him with intimacy. Best system I've ever used. Laughter. Real, gut level. I'm glad that's not me laughter. The kind of laughter that makes people glance at you, just to see how you'll take it." Someone even whistled. "Iconic," said one of the women from her team. "Legend," said another. "Dean's a good sport," the haircut added. "He knows it's a joke." I smiled politely, like a man who'd just been told his dog could do a trick he never taught it. "Of course," I said. "Hilarious." Clara soaked in the attention like it was top-shelf champagne. She always liked being the center of the room, especially if the spotlight came with applause. I stood up, still smiling. "Drink?" she asked, the tone just soft enough to play to our little audience. "I'll grab one at the bar," I said. "You're on a roll." At the bar, I ordered a bourbon. The bartender was efficient, no nonsense. My kind of man. "Company party?" he asked as he set the glass down. "Something like that," I said. "More of a live comedy show. I'm the material." He smirked. "That bad?" "Not bad," I said, watching the ice settle. "Just enlightening." The ride home was smooth, the city lights slicing through the windshield in clean lines. Clara was still riding the high from her performance. "You were great tonight," she said, as if I'd just nailed my role in her script. "Standing ovation?" I said. She glanced at me. "Oh, come on, it was a joke." "I know," I said. I heard the laugh track. "People tease," she said. "It's corporate, Dean, not church." "Right, corporate." I looked out the window, watching the skyline disappear. "We should get a plaque for the house. Intimacy withheld pending performance." "Really brand the place." She rolled her eyes. "You're being dramatic." "No," I said. "I'm being archived." We pulled into the garage, and she turned off the engine. She sat there a second, staring at the dashboard like it owed her a better ending. "Are we going to fight?" "No," I said. "We're going to recalibrate." "Which means?" "You'll see." She gave a small laugh, like I'd just promised a surprise gift. That was the moment I knew she had no idea what was coming. The morning after the corporate comedy show started like any other. Coffee brewing, sunlight slicing through the blinds, Clara scrolling her phone in her robe. On the surface, nothing was different, but in my head, the layout had changed. I set my running shoes by the door, not in the closet. A small thing, but it meant they weren't waiting for her approval before I used them. My calendar was open on the counter. Gym at 7, call with the Denver team at 10, lunch with Marcus at noon. Clara looked up from her phone. "Lunch? On a Friday?" "Yeah," I said. "Marcus suggested it last night." She frowned slightly, the polite kind of frown people give before telling you your fly is down. "I thought we usually leave Fridays open in case we want to do something." I knew what that meant. She wanted Fridays open in case she decided to plan something last minute, and I was expected to drop everything. "You mean in case you want to do something," I said. "Not this time." Her eyebrows lifted in mock surprise. "Wow, someone's feeling bold today." "Not bold," I said, taking a sip of coffee. Just done checking in like a teenager asking for the car keys. For a moment, I could see her processing that I wasn't playing the usual game. She let out a little laugh and went back to her phone, pretending it didn't matter. That was fine. I wasn't looking for a debate. I was setting a new baseline. At lunch, Marcus gave me the kind of look you reserve for a friend who just showed up in a new car without warning. "So," he said after the server left, "what's with the schedule change? You usually avoid Friday lunches in case the boss calls you in." "New policy," I said. "I don't work weekends anymore, at least not for free." Marcus grinned. "This about last night?" "Yeah," I said. She thought it was just a joke, but the thing about jokes? They usually have a little truth baked in, and I'm done letting her sell that truth for laughs. "So what? You're gonna punish her?" I shook my head. "Not punishment, adjustment. She's been pulling the same lever for years. Use intimacy like a reward, pull it away like a penalty. I'm just taking the lever off the machine." Marcus leaned back. "That's cold." "No," I said. "It's controlled. I'm not starting fights. I'm just not handing her the steering wheel anymore." When I got home, Clara was in yoga pants and a tank top, leaning against the kitchen counter with her water bottle, the picture of casual domesticity. "How was your little bro date?" she asked, smiling just enough to see if she could bait me. "Good," I said, setting my keys down. "Nobody put anyone on blast in front of an audience, so I'd call it a success." Her smile twitched. "You're still on that?" "I'm not on anything," I said. "I'm just paying attention now." She stared at me for a second, like she was trying to read if I was actually serious. "You know I was kidding, right?" "Sure," I said. "But I'm still allowed to decide I don't like the punchline." That one landed. She turned away, busying herself with the fridge, pretending the conversation was over. Saturday morning, I was lacing my boots when Clara walked in, coffee in hand, robe tied just enough to look effortless. "Pancakes?" she asked, voice warm, as if nothing had shifted. "Tree crew's coming at 9, I said. "After that, I'm heading to the trail." She tilted her head. "We talked about going to the art fair with Kara." "You talked," I said. I listened. Then I made my own plans. A flicker of annoyance crossed her face. "So you're just not available?" "Not for that," I said, standing up. Her smile turned thinner. "I'll remember this." "Good," I said, grabbing my jacket. "That's the point." By Sunday, she'd changed tactics. It was the closeness routine, brushing my arm when she walked by, leaning on my shoulder during a movie. I matched her tone but didn't take the bait. No escalation, no reward for the effort. After a while, she sighed. "Are you mad at me?" "No," I said. "I'm just not playing the same game." "Same thing." "Not really," I replied. "Mad is loud. This is just me turning down the volume." Midweek, she tried what I call the grand gesture trap, a surprise invitation to a reset weekend in the mountains. No phones, massages, fresh air. "Sounds nice," I said. "But if the vibe only works when we're in a different zip code, it's not a vibe. It's a costume." Her eyes narrowed. "Why are you being impossible?" "I've tried being possible," I said. "It didn't work." She shook her head, half amused, half irritated. "God, you sound like a podcast." "And you sound like the comment section," I said, getting up to refill my coffee. She stared at my back for a long moment before saying, "You'll cool off." I turned around. "No, Clara. I'll just get very clear." And for the first time in a long time, I meant every word. The first opportunity came faster than I expected. A week after the reset weekend offer fell flat, Clara suggested we go to a casual dinner at her friend Megan's place. "Just a small group," she said. "Good food, some wine, nothing dramatic." Which, in Clara speak, meant people I can impress, and an audience for whatever version of our marriage I feel like selling tonight. I agreed, partly because I was curious, partly because I wanted to see if my new strategy would hold under a different kind of pressure, public, friendly, but still charged. Megan's apartment was all neutral tones and curated candles, the kind of place that smells like it came with a subscription box. 8 of us were there, sitting around a big wooden table that looked like it had never seen spaghetti night. The conversation drifted to relationships, inevitable when wine's involved. One of the guys, an old friend of Megan's, asked, "So, Dean, what's the secret to keeping things smooth at home?" Before I could open my mouth, Clara leaned in, smiling like she'd just been handed the mic. "Oh, I keep him in line," she said. "Don't I, Dean?" It wasn't the exact same line from the corporate dinner, but I knew the setup. This was her way of testing if I'd play along, maybe even toss her the easy laugh. I smiled back, calm. "She tries," I said. "But it's hard to keep a man in line when you don't know where the line is." The table laughed. Different laughter this time, not at me, at her. It was subtle, but I saw it land. Her smile froze just a fraction too long before she joined in. Megan changed the subject, but Clara's eyes kept flicking toward me for the rest of dinner, as if she was recalculating. On the drive home, she finally said it. "Not cool." "What wasn't?" I asked, keeping my eyes on the road. "You know exactly what I mean." "Making a joke? I thought that's what we do now," I said. "It's fun, right? Builds character." She folded her arms. "You turned it on me." I shrugged. "I just returned the serve." She stared out the window for the rest of the ride. I didn't fill the silence. The next few days she switched into what I call the social pressure phase. She'd mentioned to friends, loud enough for me to hear, that I'd been a little moody lately, or that I needed a vacation. Classic groundwork for building a story where she's the patient spouse dealing with a grumpy husband. One evening, she was on the phone with Kara, the art fair friend, talking in that syrupy tone people use when they want to sound sympathetic and superior at the same time. "He's just different lately," she said. "Like more distant. I don't know, maybe it's stress." I was in the kitchen within earshot, stirring pasta sauce. "Stress?" I called out. "From what, my grueling lunch schedule?" There was a pause on the line. Clara forced a laugh. "See what I mean?" she told Kara. "Glad I could help," I said, going back to the sauce. She hung up 10 minutes later and walked into the kitchen. "You don't have to eavesdrop, you know." "I wasn't eavesdropping," I said. "You were narrating me like I'm a podcast. You're impossible. And yet, here I am." By the weekend, I could feel her frustration building. The robe came out in the mornings, the accidental touches in the evenings. But the thing about routines is they lose power when the other person stops reacting. Sunday morning, over coffee, she tried again. "You've been hard to read lately." "That's because I stopped writing the script for you," I said. She gave me that slow blink she does when she's weighing whether to push or retreat. "I'm just saying, it feels like you're pulling away." "I'm just walking at my own pace," I said. "If that feels far, maybe you were too close to begin with." She laughed once, short. "You love your metaphors." "They're cheaper than therapy," I said, finishing my coffee. That night, we went to a larger get-together, a friend of a friend's barbecue. Lots of casual mingling, easy conversation. I was mid-discussion with a guy about hiking trails when I heard Clara behind me talking to a small group. "He's been kind of distant lately," she was saying. "But I guess that's marriage, right? You just work with what you've got." Someone chuckled politely. I turned around, still smiling from my trail conversation. "Careful," I said. "Keep that up, and I'll start charging appearance fees." The group laughed, genuine, surprised laughter. Clara smiled tightly. "We joke," she said quickly. "Always," I replied. "Some jokes just cost more than others." On the way home, she didn't speak until we hit the garage. "You made me look bad," she said. "I killed the engine." "No, Clara. You set up the scene. I just didn't stick to your script." She shook her head and got out without another word. Inside, I hung my jacket and realized something important. She wasn't just annoyed that I'd pushed back. She was unsettled that it had worked. The old dynamic, The one where she controlled the narrative in public had a crack in it now, and I was in no rush to patch it. Clara didn't bother pacing herself. The morning after the dinner, she upgraded from polite hints to a full-court press. First came romance mode, candles on the table, low music, and a bottle of wine she usually saved for guests who weren't about to get cross-examined. "I made reservations for Saturday," she said, setting a glossy little card in front of me like it was a peace offering. "New place in Lohi. Hard to get." I glanced at it. "Nice font," I said. "Problem is, dinner can't fix what you sell during dessert." She blinked. "Meaning?" "Meaning I'm not buying resets. I'm buying respect. Different menu." Her smile thinned. "So we can't even have a nice evening?" "We can," I said. "But it can't be the apology and the distraction in one. Pick one." She didn't. The card disappeared back into her bag, and the click of the clasp might as well have been a gavel. On Sunday, she found me in the garage, organizing tools I hadn't touched in months. "You're shutting me out," she said, leaning in the doorway. "I'm not," I said. "I'm just making room." "For what?" "For a version of us that doesn't need an audience." She crossed her arms. "You act like I'm the bad guy." "I act like I'm done being the joke," I said. "Big difference." She waited like I'd suddenly break into a heartfelt speech. I didn't. I coiled an extension cord, wiped the counter, labeled a box. If peace was a hardware aisle, I was stocking it. Tuesday brought a new tactic, provocation. She was plating pasta in the kitchen, the steam curling like she'd rehearsed it. "You know," she said lightly, "if you wanted more attention, you picked the wrong strategy. You're not exactly making yourself irresistible." "It's not a strategy," I said. "It's a standard." "Same thing." "No," I said. "A strategy is how you win. A standard is what you won't lose." She tilted her head. "And what won't you lose exactly?" "Me?" I said. "Not again." That one landed. Quietly, but it landed. Midweek, I booked a meeting with a lawyer. No drama. Just numbers, facts, and timelines. What's joint, what's separate, what's possible, what's fantasy. I left with a plan and a strange sense of calm. On the way home, I opened a new checking account. Not a secret, just a boundary. If we ever needed to cut the cord, at least I wouldn't be fumbling for scissors. Marcus texted, "So, you're actually prepping?" Me, "I'm making sure I can." That usually makes people honest. By Friday, we had people over. Megan, her boyfriend, and a couple of Clara's colleagues. The evening was fine until someone cracked a joke about, "Dean, do you even get a say at home?" It was meant to be harmless, but Clara couldn't resist. She smiled. "Please, Dean knows the rules. Don't you, Dean?" I held her gaze for a beat, then looked at the guy who made the joke. "I know one rule," I said. "Respect or it's not a marriage. Everything else is just a costume." The table went still for a second. Then Megan gave a quiet, approving nod. Conversation limped back to movies. The night ended polite but cold. When the door closed, Clara turned to me. "You love embarrassing me lately." "No," I said. "I love not covering for us." "You're making me look like the villain." "You're making me look like a prop," I said. "Pick a lane." She stood there, jaw tight. "You'll get over this." "I'll get organized," I said. The rest of the weekend was quiet. Too quiet. She tried music from our early days, whiskey I used to brag about, little callbacks from our history. "I remember that trip," she said softly, "when we got caught in the rain." "I remember," I said. "We didn't perform for anyone that day." "We're not performing now," she said. "You did," I said, "and you liked it." She didn't deny it. She just looked away and for once didn't have a comeback. By Monday morning, my papers were sorted, my accounts were clean, and my schedule was mine again. No threats, no ultimatums, just readiness. By Monday evening, they were on her coffee table. Clara was curled up on the couch, scrolling through her phone. She barely looked up when I walked in. "What's that?" she asked as I set a plain manila folder between us. Your next chapter? I said. She smirked. Cute. What is it really? Divorce packet, property, accounts, timelines, everything ready to go. You just read and sign. The smirk froze for half a second before coming back, thinner. You're not serious. I sat down across from her. I don't do rehearsal speeches, Clara. If I was bluffing, I'd still be smiling. She gave a short laugh. You're overreacting. This is about one joke. No, I cut in. This is about how you've been treating me for months. The joke was just the trailer. I'm done watching the movie. She pushed the folder back toward me like it was contaminated. You're not going to file. You love me. I leaned forward. I did. And then you turned that into leverage. Her phone lit up with a notification. She didn't look at it. She didn't look at me either. You don't have to sign tonight, I said, standing, but you should start packing your side of the closet just in case. I left the folder where it was. The click of the door behind me was the only sound in the room. By Tuesday evening, the folder was exactly where I'd left it. Same angle, same untouched corners, like she thought it was a prop in some drama I was staging, not the ending of the play. I stepped into the living room. Clara was on the couch with her laptop, scrolling through something mindless. She glanced at me, then back at the screen. You didn't even open it, I said. She smirked without looking up. Because you're not serious. You're just trying to make a point. I walked over, took the laptop off her lap, and set it on the coffee table next to the folder. You're half right. I am making a point, and the point is, time's up. Her brows furrowed. What does that mean? It means you've had time to start packing. You didn't. So now I'm going to help you. She laughed, short and incredulous. Help me? You're not throwing me out of my own house? I leaned forward, resting my hands on my knees. Our house. And yes, I am. The difference between us is, I mean what I say. She stood, folding her arms tight. You wouldn't dare. I already did, I said, pulling my phone from my pocket. Your sister's on her way to pick you up. She'll be here in 30 minutes. I even told her to bring extra bags. That flicker in her eyes, anger mixed with the first shadow of doubt, was better than any argument. You're insane, she said. I'm finished, I replied, standing. Clara, I warned you. I gave you every chance to pull it back, but you thought it was a bluff. You thought I was just another guy who talks big and folds when it counts. She didn't move. So I walked to the hallway, opened the closet, and started pulling her coats off the hangers. Bedroom's next. Let's make this quick. Her voice wavered. Dean, this isn't... You don't... Save it, I said. Whatever you were about to say, I've heard a softer version of it before. And the ending's always the same. You win, I swallow it. Not anymore. By the time headlights flashed across the window, 2 suitcases sat by the door. Clara stood beside them, arms crossed, chin lifted like she was still holding some invisible crown over her head. But her eyes told the truth. That brittle shine was never confidence. It was the last thing she had to keep from admitting she'd lost. The engine outside cut off. A car door slammed. Her sister's footsteps crunched up the driveway. You don't have to do this, Clara said, her voice softer now, almost testing if there was a way back in. I leaned against the wall, hands in my pockets. Clara, I already did this. You just didn't believe me. You'll regret it, she said, but the words didn't have any weight. More like she was reading from a script she didn't believe in anymore. Her sister knocked, quick and impatient. I opened the door without breaking eye contact with Clara. Your ride's here. She gripped the handles of the suitcases but didn't move. Say something, she demanded. Goodbye, I said simply. She rolled the bags out, her heels clicking against the floor. At the door, she paused, maybe to see if I'd stop her, maybe to see if I'd flinch. I didn't. I just held the door open until she stepped into the night. Her sister gave me a quick, unreadable glance before taking the suitcases. The car door shut, the engine started, and just like that, the sound of their tires faded down the street. I closed the door and stood in the silence for a moment. No tension, no games, No waiting for the next round, just quiet. For the first time in a long time, the house felt like mine, and I intended to keep it that way. 6 months after the divorce was finalized, I still got the occasional accidental text from Clara. A photo of a wine glass. A comment about missing the good times. Once she sent me a blurry picture of her new haircut. I didn't reply. The house was quieter, cleaner. I changed the locks, sold the couch she insisted on, and repainted the bedroom walls. Not because I needed a fresh start, but because I liked the idea of erasing anything she might think she left behind. Her friends, the ones who used to give me pity smiles at parties, now kept a careful distance from her and were oddly friendly toward me when I ran into them in town. I guess news travels fast when someone finally calls the bluff no one thought they would. I wasn't dating, not yet. I was enjoying the luxury of my own schedule, my own rules, and my own damn remote control. Turns out, peace and quiet beat anything people usually brag about. The last time I saw Clara was in the grocery store parking lot. I was loading bags into my trunk when I spotted her a few cars away, leaning casually against her SUV like she'd been waiting for me to notice. She wore that same smug smile she'd had the night she thought I wouldn't follow through, only now it didn't sit as firmly. There was a tiny flicker in her eyes like she wasn't entirely sure how this meeting would go. "Hey, stranger," she called out, strolling closer. "We should catch up sometime." I slid the last bag into the trunk and closed it with a solid thud. "Clara," I said, "we caught up when we signed the divorce papers." That was the whole conversation. Her smile faltered just enough to tell me the message landed. I got into my car, started the engine, and pulled away without looking back. Not at her, not at the spot where she'd been standing. Some things, and some people, are best left in the rearview you never check.